I have a lot of new cutesy little things that I can show you guys at a later date, but let's get into some Magnus Archives. Little life update. I will be doing Magnus Archives episodes every week, instead of twice every week because it's a little bit too much for me. But yeah, there won't be any more vacation because I'll schedule these out in advance. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into some Magnus Archives. Alright, so let's get started. So this is episode 25. The case number for this is 0151904 by Mark Billum, and it's about how he visited a church called Hilter Green Chapel on April 19th of 2015. He goes in by telling us, like, oh, I don't believe in the supernatural, and he tells us about how he told his girlfriend about the story, about how he went to go to the chapel, which we'll touch on later, and how the girlfriend was like, you need to go talk to them. And he was like, I don't want to talk to them because this isn't supernatural. But she was like, you need to. It's my best friend that you're visiting. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we love Kate. Kate's great. Kate is the reason that they stayed in London. Then Kathy apparently found a new church. And she always went out to this new church, but it was normally during like the nighttime. And so when she would go out to this new church, she wouldn't really say anything. She would just go out, come in. She like stopped talking, really. So she just mainly stayed in her room too. She went out and in and out and in, and during the course of this time, they found that the light bulbs that they had on the ceiling, they were actually not working. They thought that it was blown out, but it was not blown out. It was just it was like loosened a bit, and so because it was loosened, he had to tighten it. He was like, "Oh my God, the lights do work. They're just being loosened." They figured out that it was from Natalie, not Kathy, and they were like, why the fuck is Kathy doing this? Like, why is she purposefully putting us in the dark? That's a bit odd. Essentially, she wanted to go to med school and everything, and she couldn't do that if she wasn't in London. So he was like, okay, fine, I'll move to London, whatever. So they were in London. He ended up getting a house by himself. They were supposed to live together, and that was during the time where she had to live with her parents, but then she ended up moving in with a girl that she knew, not from university, but apparently from summer school together. And apparently, when he met her, they had nothing in common, really. It was just like they had very opposite interests. She liked crocheting, he liked, out and doing things. They had nothing in common. And she seemed very quiet, very put together, very religious. And then her mom died, which was really unfortunate. But her mom died, and she got really sad, really quickly. Kathy came home always with being super tired and everything. I went to his house a lot, and always just super tired. And because of this, she would just get tired of things. And how she explained it to her boyfriend, that Natalie, who's the roommate by the way, Natalie would be singing, and when she was out and about, there was movement, and her things were dropping, and it seemed to get louder and louder and louder every time she got to sleep. So it was kind of like shit. And it was just not a good living situation for her. And it got to the point where she came to her boyfriend crying this one time, which he proceeds to tell us about. And it was apparently because of the story that I'm going to tell you guys about. And it was basically about how Kathy had went over there one day, and Natalie basically tried to convert her. Sorry about my audio before, guys. I got a new microphone. I thought it would. I just have to figure out what's going on with it, but so sorry about that audio. We're gonna fix it. We get to the whole dinner scene, and there's these two bowls on the table, and one of the bowls is in front of Kate, whatever, and the other one's in front of Natalie, and so she can't see what the fuck is in these bowls. Why the fuck you would eat it still, I don't know. But she like takes a few forkfuls and she thinks that it's spinach, but it's like super slimy and disgusting. So she like pushes it away from it, and she's like, maybe this is the perfect time to tell her that I want to move out. So she goes and she proceeds to be like, hey, I want to move out, by the way, Natalie. And Natalie is like, oh my God, I totally agree. But I also want to move out because my family from this church of 300 years has finally opened a place for me. Which, bitch, what the fuck are you talking about? But anyways, Kathy just sat there and was like, okay, like, I'm super concerned about you. And Natalie gets up and she's like, you should join us. you should be converted too. And she's like, no, I don't want to. And she's like, well, you're already worshiping him. She tells her boyfriend all this. Her boyfriend's like all angry and being like, I'm gonna be a big old macho man. And he's getting angry and he takes her keys and he's like, I'm gonna go talk to Natalie. And she's like, please don't do that. And he's like, I'm gonna go talk to her, whatever, it's fine. Which, weird, but okay. So then he takes a big drive, and apparently he's saying that everything that he like drives by is super dark, which I'm like, yeah, it's fucking creepy what you're about to do. And then he unlocks the door, and as he unlocks the door and he walks in, totally dark, he's like, okay, whatever. She unscrewed the damn light bulbs again. So he walks in, he walks through, looks in every door, still no Natalie. So he goes over to her door, hesitates, stops for a second because he's trembling and he's scared, like the big macho man that he is. Then he opens the door, and then he sees that the carpet's torn up, it's stapled against the window, the wallpaper's torn up, it's stapled against the window, and he's like, what the fuck? And he sees something on the ground that is like a little piece of paper that's sticking up from the floorboard, and it's like a little like pamphlet for like the church or whatever. So he's like, you know what, I'm gonna go to this church, like the big macho man that he is. So he goes over and he goes to the church, and he's like figuring out everything, and he's like looking around. It's in a graveyard, by the way. The original building that he went to, it was like super empty, but then across the street was a graveyard that basically was called the Hither Green whatever. And so he walks in and he sees this big chapel, and he's like, okay. And he sees this old ass fence around it. He walks in, he kind of looks around it, he's like, and as he's like telling us a statement, he's like, I'm never stupid enough to walk in like these buildings, but I just decided to. And I'm like, that's because you're fucking white. Anyway, so he goes and he walks into this fucking thing, and he has like his little torch, which is totally fair, but he's like looking around like, As he's like looking around, he kind of sees like, oh, it's an old building. Like, he's, from what he can see like it's dusty, like there was no one in here. So then his fucking torch, like, it dies or whatever. So he like tries to put the batteries out and put it back in, but he drops the batteries. So as he goes down to the ground, he feels, oh, it's super clean down here and it's smooth like leather. Then he's like, what the fuck? And then he hears dozens of people start singing out of nowhere, so he got freaked the fuck out, which I would too, I get it. And they seem to say like ni aluson or something like that. And he was just saying, they're like, what the fuck is going on? Which honestly is such a fair fucking response, but why the fuck are you there? And he's like, okay, this is really weird. So he tries to feel his way around, and the singing is just happening louder and louder, but he feels around something, and he feels like something that's like a grid or something like that, and he feels it, but then as he keeps feeling it, he realizes that he feels fingers try to grab him, so he like pushes all the way back. As he was doing this, he like apparently like flew his phone onto his head, which he bumped the shit out of his head, which made him not be such a macho man. And then he turns on his flashlight and he looks around, and then everything's fine. Everything went back to being quiet. Nothing's happening. And he's like, what the fuck? And so he immediately gets up. He starts fucking crying because it's his first time seeing light in years. And then he runs immediately and calls the police. And of course the police didn't believe him. But that's the end of his statement. And it was a very interesting statement. But essentially this is where we get to the important notes part, which is one of my favorites. And basically he tells us that Sasha did confirm that on March 11th of 2015, they did mark Natalie as missing person, which is crazy. And they had no leads on the location or the whereabouts of the chapel or even her whereabouts as well, so everything's kind of up in the air. And then of course they followed up with the people who made the statement, and neither of them have seen her since. And then they look into like the Ni Alisand, like what that means, and apparently it's a town in Norway, and it's a company town, but they're known for having some of the longest nights like in the world. And so they were like, I don't know what correlation this has, but it's really interesting. So it's interesting to correlate the night with the dark and see how that kind of goes. And they also mentioned the symbol of the closed eye, which I don't think that I mentioned, but there was a closed eye on that pamphlet that said Hither Green Chapel. And they basically said that it reminds them of a case number, which I'll see what you guys like, what you guys think it is before I say it. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it comes from 0020312 similarity, which I'll tell you guys exactly which one that is. If you guys didn't guess already, it actually came from episode 9, which was the Father's Love episode about the serial killer. It came from that one, and there's a lot of mentions of a church in there, so I think you guys should go back and make that similarity, because I would too. Anyways, so then Martin also found out that on May 15th of 2015, the police were called to look into the church, and that church apparently, there were screams coming from it around the same time that Gertrude Robinson died, that very same day. So very weird, very odd, very awkward. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It really does feel great to come back and make these videos for you guys, so I hope that I can make them as great as possible. I have a tripod now, a microphone, as you can tell in the first half of this video, that I will figure out how it works, and I also do have a little ring light that you guys will see off and on during this entire video. So I'm prepared and I'm ready to see you guys in the next one. See you next week.
Episode 1: Anglerfish.